Well, hello, neighbor, and welcome to the Dynasty Happy Hour Contractor. I am your host. My name is Memphis. You can follow along at DWZ Memphis. And on this week's show, we're going to have a long story and a good story of a guy who was my very first contractor guest who ended up being a co-host on another podcast that I do. So we're just going to jump on here. We're going to shoot the shit and talk about his roster that we talked about almost a year ago and how our podcasting and working relationship has changed. I just want to get one little thing off my chest before we get rolling on this thing. I know the Dynasty Happy Hour Contractor is not for everybody. I know a lot of the people who are tuning in are looking for Doug. They're looking for Kyle. They're looking for Tyler. They're looking for the guys of the Dynasty Happy Hour. I listen. I get it. I love Tyler. I love Doug. I love Tim. They are all absolutely awesome. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those guys and the relationship that I have with them. But man, if you want to shit on someone's podcast and leave a negative review, come over and do it to the Dynasty Warzone. Don't do it to the guys here at the Dynasty Happy Hour. We're all just trying to add more content in what's becoming a content battle on podcast and social media. So again, if you don't like it, when you subscribe to a network like the Dynasty Happy Hour, when you see the one that says DHH Contractor, just swipe left. Pretend like it's Tinder and just swipe left, and maybe it's swipe right. I don't know. I'm a married dude. But you get my gist. If you don't like the IDP show, if you don't like the Devi show, if you don't like the Contractor show, just delete it out of your feed and listen to the ones you do like. But man, don't take it out on Tyler, Tim, and Doug and their awesome network of shows because you don't like me. I'm not for everybody. I know it, but I just want to make sure I get that out of the way because I take a lot of pride in trying to help people. I know that there was some comments about one of my previous guests. Let me make one other thing clear. Now, if you want to take it out on Dr. Kyle tonight, fine. Take it out on Dr. Kyle. But don't take it out on the working class guys and owners and GMs that are on the show that just want to come on and get a little help with their fantasy and dynasty rosters, man. So, again, I thank all of you that have enjoyed the show and have been hanging out with me for about a year. But, again, if you don't like it, please don't take it out on Doug, Tyler, and Tim and their network. So here we go. I'm going to introduce this guy. Now, he has joined, much to his chagrin, he has joined the ranks of Dynasty podcasters. He has joined the ranks of content creators. He is one of my co-hosts. We host a show every season during the NFL regular season. We talk about gambling, injuries. I think he's going to jump on our redraft this show. I'll let him introduce himself. His name is Dr. Kyle Bowser, but you can follow him on Twitter at DWZ_Dr. PT. Dr. Kyle, man, what's up?
Some might know me as the dirtiest player in the game, but tonight
Man,
I'm just a guy looking for some advice.
so here's the thing. So people that actually wonder, do these bitches actually play Dynasty? Do these guys actually love Dynasty fantasy football as much as I do or we do as the consumer of this podcast? You're damn right we do. This is what Dr. Kyle...
You want to know what I pony up every year? I shouldn't say that too loudly. My wife might hear.
Your wife is in the other room. But
I dabble in Dynasty financially.
I will say, I think, without putting you on blast too much, I think this is your $1,500 entry fee roster.
No,
you can just say yes or no.
This is my $750. This is my $750.
This is your $750, but there's a $1,500 out there somewhere. There's there's one that you maybe manage for a friend that might reach 5 figures. So you play at a big level, and this is the importance. And it puts a lot of pressure on me, but I don't mind it. So, again, thank you for jumping on. And if you're not following this guy, again, at DWZ_Dr. PT. If you're watching live on YouTube, I just realized I clicked the wrong banner. I actually have one of my boy Matty Big Chest, so I'm gonna fix that real quick. But
just
Kyle,
just to be fully. I was just going to say, just to be to fully disclose, Memphis and I, we chatted before we got on here, how for both of us, it's been a bit of a day. So forgive us, but we're happy to promote Matty Big Chest 24/7 because he's also a great follow, though he's not here right now.
Yeah, at Matty Big Chest. If you're doing like an MFL league and you need someone to customize that thing, he's done like Marvel themed, The Office, TV shows, Game of Thrones. He's done some really neat stuff. So if you want to pimp out your MFL Dynasty League, just check out at Matty Big Chest on Twitter. He does a great job. So, Dr. Kyle, let's talk about this roster, man. I don't want to bore the people with all of the other shenanigans that we do. I've already gotten Tyler and the boys here at least one that I know of, negative review, and I'm not trying to grow that number exponentially. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this team, man. Tell me about the team. What's the scoring format? What's the hosting format?
Okay.
Let's just start there.
So this is a Superflex Dynasty with a 1.5 point tight end premium. It's on FFPC. It's my first ever Dynasty league that startup draft was probably 2 years ago, roughly. It was two off seasons ago, definitely, maybe a little bit closer. It was definitely post draft because I had no idea what rookies that I should and shouldn't be drafting in that league, and ultimately spent way too much draft capital on some aging veterans. Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, Todd Gurley, Adam Thielen. It was and a little bit of it was planned going in. I was like, let's try and win it early and get out. And it looked like it had the makings of a win now team, and it surely did not. And so a year later, a year ago now, offseason was my first Dynasty Happy Hour Contractor, the inaugural one with yourself, Memphis. We talked about some moves. I would say some of the biggest moves I've made in the past year, because after that dumpster fire of a draft and not competing last year, and then going into the draft, it was very much like we're in probably a 2-year rebuild, and now we're going into the second year of that rebuild. But last year I was able to turn a DJ Moore into a Terry McLaurin, 21 first and a 21 second. And my man LD, he probably doesn't listen, but if he does, he's still bitter about it, which is great. He commends me still for that trade. So that was a big one. I also managed to turn Tyler Higbee and 2 future seconds into Justin Herbert, and that's huge. And especially for a guy who drafted Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, and Josh Rosen, there's a 3 quarterback limit in the startup on FFPC. Those are my 3 quarterbacks to be drafted 2 years ago.
And
what a dumpster fire.
And if I remember correctly, you drafted Andrew Luck was it like a week or 2 weeks before he retired? It was. I mean, it was a month or less that you pulled the trigger on old neckbeard himself as your QB of the future. And man, that's tough sledding. But you got Justin Herbert, so a guy who the ADP that I've seen recently, I think it was the DLF, and then in some actual startups that people are posting pictures on Twitter. I've seen Justin Herbert going around the QB5. He's in that next tier right now, right behind Mahomes, Watson, Kyler, Dak. That seems to be the cutoff, and then it starts the guys like Herbert, Lamar, Burrow, etc. So, man, to get a guy with that current valuation for 2 random seconds and a Tyler Higbee share, ooh. Now you also wound up with another quarterback. You have a guy that I am a little trepidatious. I know Jerry loves that word, Tua Tagovailoa. But here's the thing. There was a lot of people, no, not me because I was a Josh Allen fan, but there was a guy 2 years ago named Josh Allen that a lot of people in the Dynasty space had already written off as a crumb bum and a shoe clerk, but he has grown to be arguably, and I didn't mention him in the top 5 quarterbacks of a Superflex startup, Josh Allen. He's now there. Now, do I think Tua's going to claw his way into top 5 overall quarterback? No. But he's certainly capable of being serviceable if they continue to surround him with weapons. So how did you get Tua?
Tua, actually, so that was he fell to me at 107 because post NFL draft, all the running back landing spots looked phenomenal. And so it was like the top 6 in my league was Burrow, and then it was Taylor Swift, Dobbins, Akers, and then whatever.
CEH.
CD. Yeah, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yep.
He was the 5th Beatle.
Yep. So, so all of a sudden at 107, Tua was there, and that was an easy scoop. And in the second, I also I grabbed Gibson, Darrington Evans, and Jordan Love. Since then, so in the offseason last year, I moved Gibson and Big Ben for Cortland Sutton, which right now doesn't look great. I think in a year from now it will look great. So I don't have any regrets. Obviously, it'd be nice to have a running back like Gibson's upside. But another big move I made in the regular season, and this, we talk about being a part of the Dynasty Wars when we talk about teaching like principles for Dynasty about like when should you make certain moves. Like if you're trying to move guys right now and acquire picks, like stop. Like you might have good luck, but just wait. If there's no rush. This time last year, I was trying to move Keenan Allen, and everybody was like, "You're not going to get a first for Keenan Allen, no matter how hard you try." You know what happened? Middle of the season, trade deadline, Keenan Allen explodes as Justin Herbert all of a sudden was the best quarterback Keenan Allen's ever had after 7 years of Phillip Rivers. Go figure that Phillip Rivers, who has never looked great, wasn't a great quarterback for Keenan Allen. And then I moved Keenan Allen for Brandon Ayuk and a 2021 second. So, and Brandon Ayuk is clearly valued at more than a late first right now. So if you're looking to acquire players now. Wait until the draft. The closer you get to the draft, the more valuable your picks are. So if you're trying to acquire players because you're win now, or there's guys you're out there, your liquid assets, your picks are only going to increase in value up until that draft. And then if you're trying to get rid of players and acquire picks, wait until in season when you can trade a guy like Travis Fulgham for a random first or a random second and just cash in and let that money flow in. But anyway, I digress. But
no, you're good. Because that's good advice. If you're going to do anything right now, you have to have the courage to go against the grain. Going out and trying to buy. You're not going to get rich buying a bunch of Amazon stock or Tesla stock. You may make a little bit of money, but you're not going to grow it because everybody already knows that's a good asset to be involved in. It's the same thing with certain players. You're not going to get Justin Jefferson. So I'm going to actually add, the hot rookie hotness coming off of last year. You're not getting those guys either. It's going to be players in year 3 through maybe 6 or 7.
Can I give you an example?
Sure, absolutely. It's what you're the guest.
So this roster right here, Calvin Ridley, he's like my prized possession. We'll talk about the roster in a second, but it's very wide receiver heavy because I know that wide receivers don't lose value. So knowing I wasn't competing this past year, I stocked up on wide receivers and didn't really give a shit about running back. And so I acquired Calvin Ridley in the process and almost tried to move him in season, but he, then got injured, and so his value went down a little bit, and then had an absolute monster finish to the season. And so low key, sneaky dynasty players are probably trying to acquire him, but not at cost right now. But Calvin Ridley just finished his 3rd season and absolutely exploded with missing time with injuries. And I've been trying to move him, not because I want to move Calvin Ridley because I don't want him on my roster, but with the FFPC roster cut downs, you have to cut down to 16 by March 31st, and you're only required to start it's 1 quarterback, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, a flex, a super flex, and a tight end. And so you never really need that many wide receivers on your roster, and it's a little bit more of a flooded position than running back. It's a little bit more sparse. But Calvin Ridley was referred to by somebody in this league as an aging wide receiver. He's 26, only finished his 3rd season, and absolutely just murdered it as far as fantasy football goes and real football goes if you watch his tape. And so I'm like, if I'm not getting fair value for Calvin Ridley right now, I will just hold him. I will go into this season with 9 wide receivers on my roster, bunch of quarterbacks, tight ends, and 2 running backs. I don't care. I'll leave. I don't care if I don't compete next year. I'm holding on to my 2020 second first. And the way FFPC works is you don't last place doesn't get the 101. But the bottom 2 in the regular season get the bye. There's a plan for 101, but I'm playing for the 101 next year, and then the following season I plan to make it happen. But again, like Calvin Ridley should not be viewed as an aging asset right now. Yeah, I don't know. Memphis.
Well, let me take a couple of swings at this before I get into Calvin Ridley. One, listen to the good doctor. He has a plan. He has a plan, and I like this. I did this in a league where we do a play-in bracket, or I guess a loser's bracket for the 13th pick. It's a bonus pick, so you have your 12 first-round picks. Normal way to attain those. Then you have your round 2 picks, but in the middle, that 13th pick, they have like a toilet bowl, and the winner of the toilet bowl gets the 13th pick. Well, I knew I had a bunch of injuries on this team. I had George Kittle, I had Austin Eckler, and I knew that even if I got everybody healthy, I wasn't winning the ship in this league. So I kind of quasi-tanked, and what I did was I wound up record-wise getting the 103. But then I got Austin Eckler healthy, I got Raheem Mostert healthy, I got George Kittle healthy. And in the playoffs, I managed to get hot, and I won the playoff bracket. And because of that, in this league now where I'm getting healthy, I've got the 103 and the 113, as well as the 203. So I'm gonna put what is that? 3 of the top 16 rookies in this class on this roster. Yeah. And this is a pretty decent roster. And you're kind of, planning on doing the same thing, because if you just kind of lay out, get a good seed in the losers bracket for the 101 in this league, and then all of a sudden you turn it on at the last minute. And if you win that, now you have next year's 101. And I don't remember the guy's name because I'm not the Big Debbie guy, but his name's Tank something or another from Auburn. I know people are talking about him.
Bigsby?
I think it is Tank Bigsby. And then there's, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not the Big Debbie guy. I focus too much on the pro game. But, I mean, that 101 next year, or there might be the Spencer Rattler, the quarterback. Sam Howell. I know I've heard it said that next year's rookie quarterback class won't be great like this class. You know how it's cyclical. In 2018? Yeah, it was 2018. You had Baker, Darnold, Allen, Lamar, Josh Rosen.
Mahomes?
That was 17.
Or was that?
That was 17. But so then in 2019, that was the Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins draft. And then last year this year we have another great draft. So It's cyclical. Not every year is going to be 2018 or 2021. So don't let that bum you out, and just kind of hold the course. But I see some moves you can make. So let's wrap up your QB room. You got Marcus Mariota. Now you may catch lucky with Mariota. There's word on the streets that he's going to get cut out of Las Vegas due to him making like 10, 11 million bucks. And I've heard everyone from the Bears to New England to the football team could have an eye on him. And that could give you the third starter that you need. Now you do have Jordan Love on this team. Unfortunately, you're probably, you're carrying 22 if I counted correctly. And he's probably going to be one of the 6 that would have to go down the cut line. So, I mean, are we in agreement on your quarterbacks?
Oh, yeah. I plan to keep Herbert and Tua, obviously, and then Mariota. I'm hoping the cut down's at March 31st, so I feel like I'll have more clarity on Mariota for sure. Yeah,
I think you'll know between now and as we record this. It is Wednesday, March 10th. So free agency starts 1 week from the recording of this YouTube show. So you'll have a better understanding of where Mariota is. But the Raiders do have some more cap space, so I don't know. It's to be determined, but I would rather have him at this point than Love. The only upside to having Love is if, Aaron Rodgers has missed games. He had the calf thing, a couple of collarbones, as you know, doctor. So if something were to happen to him, I'll say this. If before you make the cut downs, if you have to cut down between Mariota and Jordan Love, and they're both in the same respective role, Mariota's still the backup in Vegas, Love still the backup in Green Bay. At that point, I cut Mariota, and here's why. Yeah. If Derek Carr gets injured and Marcus Mariota goes in, he's going to have some value. But if Brett Favre. If Aaron Rodgers get hurt, you can't hurt Brett Favre. He's country strong,
running around in like Wranglers right now. Levi's.
He's running a button hook. He's throwing himself a slant route while wearing Wranglers and a sleeveless tee. But if for some reason Aaron Rodgers goes down, Jordan Love, to the Aaron Rodgers owner, would be worth their weight in gold, because you have to assume the Aaron Rodgers, GM is going to be in playoff contention. So that would be a decision that I would just kind of keep in my hip pocket. I wouldn't be in a huge hurry.
Sure.
Let's look at your running backs, because they're pretty gross. I mean, and by gross and by gross I mean gross,
non-existent.
You have 3, so that's a number. You have Keyshawn Vaughn, Phillip Lindsay, Darrington Evans. Now this startup was not that long ago. How did our running back group get in this shape?
Well, oh man, I wish I didn't have such a photographic memory, but Todd Gurley was acquired. He was a late second in a startup. I think I took him before Nick Chubb. I don't want to talk about that. I took Phillip Lindsay over, I believe, Aaron Jones in this startup. Yeah, don't judge. Please don't judge. It was my first dynasty.
I didn't know you then. I couldn't have saved you from yourself at this point, because I didn't know you then, but that's okay.
I couldn't save myself from myself. And so, I wasn't going to, I don't know. So I don't have much to say about the running back room, because there's not many running backs to talk about. But
let's look at the positive. Okay, let's look at the one guy that you have that I do like a little bit is Keyshawn Vaughn.
That was a waiver wire ad this past season. Whoever drafted him last offseason eventually had it with him, because they were probably contenders and they couldn't hang on to him too much longer. And the second I saw him on waivers, I'm like, rebuild, grab him. Let's go.
You must have picked up that tidbit from the guys to add on the Dynasty Warzone Patreon podcast. I did back in November, because Keyshawn Vaughn, the 1st of November, was on there because, Leonard Fournette, he did get the 4th overall rookie money, so whatever that contract was. And then he got the deal he got with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But this is really going to be his last shot at any kind of decent money. I have him pegged to getting a Melvin Gordon type deal. It'll probably be a 2-year, $17 million deal. And if he leaves, man, Keyshawn Vaughn could really emerge as the guy. I mean, he's got good draft capital. Rojo had a good season. I don't think.
1 second.
Well, for those that are watching live on YouTube, that we had a run-in by the Australian Shepherd dog that is Dr. Kyle's dog.
Real rough group over here in New York City.
It is. No, you will not get this. You will not get the dog barking in the podcast version. I will edit that out.
Oh, come on, leave it in. The people need to know we're human.
All right, come on. Fine. But yeah, man, Keyshawn Vaughn's going to be good in 2021. I like him. Man, Phillip Lindsay, he's a dude.
He almost feels like
a jag.
Look, we'll get to my wide receivers. My wide receiver group is young and deep, and I almost feel like it's like.
Let's get into it. Let's
get in,
because this is
deep,
how you get
real deep.
This is and it's deep too. And we'll look at your. You got Cortland Sutton, who you acquired last offseason, Calvin Ridley, Preston. If the cut deadline was today, wouldn't be on this roster. Williams, Darius Slayton, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, Denzel Mims. Lynn Bowden Jr. also would not be on this roster. So there's a couple of guys.
He had running back eligibility when the season ended, and I was like, that's intriguing from a PPR perspective, but now that he's a wide receiver, that's easy cut down piece material.
No, I'm with you. So here's the thing. I know you're not going to want to hear this because he's your crown jewel. But if I were looking to make a move with this running back wide receiver crew, I would be going out because you're not going to get a good pick. You're not going to get the pick that gets you Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. But can you get a running back of similar value to go along with these young wide receivers? Because you're obviously not going to get that much from Mims. Pittman's yet to emerge, got a quarterback upgrade. Brandon Ayuk is the apple of a lot of eyes. So there's 3 year 2 wide receivers right there. I love Terry McLaurin, love Cortland Sutton, but you can afford to move one of these, I guess year 4, as crazy as that is to sound, wide receivers in either Sutton or Ridley. I don't think you get as
Yeah,
much for Sutton coming off of the ACL.
sure.
So for me, I would be looking, man, could I get DeAndre Swift straight up for Calvin Ridley? I don't know.
No, I tried it.
Can I get Cam
Literally like
Akers?
2 nights ago. Yeah.
Can I get Cam Akers?
I think I tried that one too. So one, it's an interesting dynamic in this league because of where, and this is why like calculators aren't always great. Why Twitter polls and advice of who would you rather have this or this in this league doesn't always work is because the 12-team league is its own vacuum of a market. Like when one guy has Swift, Akers, Gibson, Eckler, AJ Dillon, that's a real roster. That's the one I tried to grab Akers or Swift off of. It makes it, and all these guys are like, wow, wide receiver so much. Like more or less, this guy made it sound like Chase Claypool was his wide receiver too. Like sees as much upside in Chase Claypool as he does Calvin Ridley. That's why you have to sometimes pick and choose. Like if like like Calvin Ridley, I've done my top 12 rankings of every position in Dynasty, at least veterans. I have to do my rookies and then overall and add rookies in. But Calvin Ridley is my wide receiver 7, and I truly believe he has wide receiver 1 overall upside with what I saw from him last year. And I refuse to move him for anything, maybe like 90 to 95%, 90 to 95 cents on the dollar. I would move him, but otherwise like I said, I'll go into this next season with 9 wide receivers and 2 running backs on the roster if I have to.
Let me ask you a question. How did you approach that owner? Because how I would have done it personally, I would have been like, look, man, you're super heavy at running back. I'm super heavy at wide receiver. Is there a 1-for-1 trade that we can do? And he may have insulted you, but I mean, at least you get a better understanding of where they're at from a valuation standpoint. But if you're telling me this guy considers Calvin Ridley an aging asset, then you're probably not going to get too far with him.
It is that guy. It's because he offered me AJ Dillon and DJ Chark, who I believe has upside this year with Lawrence likely being drafted by the Jaguars. But he offered me AJ Dillon and DJ Chark for Ridley straight up. And before I could even act on it, which I would have rejected, like I still think the Packers have a shot to sign Aaron Jones within the next week. He said, ignore that last deal. And I'm like, dude, leave me alone.
I just find it fascinating that guys playing at this level have that level of value. Now, did this guy win the league last year?
No, it's only where there's only been 2 league playoffs, and he has not won it. He's got to his credit, he has a lot of young assets and a number of picks this year and next year. But at some point he's going to have to play for the present. Right now, it feels like he's constantly playing for the future. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm not going to give him a discount on anybody because he thinks that Chase Claypool is the next coming of Calvin Johnson.
Hey, you got to let guys like that in this format. He's going to have to put some good players back out into the pool at some point. So maybe you can get lucky, and because you're not going to compete, but to win that 101, you're going to need a little bit of help. Let's talk tight ends for a minute.
Yep.
Are there like is there anyone else you could reach out to in this league that maybe has a little bit more of an active trader?
So there is a guy who there's a couple guys who are always like, let's get something done. Let's get something done. There's a guy who wants Ridley. I'm just pulling up my rosters right now. I'm sorry. I thought that, so right now, the guy who has Matt Ryan, who, if we're talking reasonable trades, might want Calvin Ridley, I realized, has TJ Hawkinson and Travis Kelce. And he's got the 112 this year. So I feel like there's maybe an opportunity for a trade there.
What about Hawkinson and the 112? This is the FFPC. This is tight end premium.
Yeah.
What about Hawkinson and like maybe the 112? Is that not enough for you? Just trying to get your general feel. It feels about right to me. Obviously, I don't have the Dynasty trade calculator pulled up, but it
I
doesn't
would
feel like
take
it
that
would.
for Ridley.
It doesn't feel like it would be too far off. The problem with
No,
the 112 this year is you're not really going to get a running back. Now you're going to
no.
get a really kick-ass player. We're going to talk about your draft picks here in just a minute. But at tight end, since we just mentioned the tight ends, you do have Cole Kmet, who I
Hmm.
like this year. Jonnu Smith, who's getting ready to get a new home. As a Jonnu Smith fan, you would be hoping that he lands in a very tight end friendly system like in Indianapolis, like Cincinnati. If he lands there, that's going to give him a bump. Dallas no longer has any money because they have like a top five paid quarterback, running back, wide receiver, guard, tackle, middle linebacker. I mean, they don't have any money, so he's going to be safe for at least the rest of this year. And we saw some pretty good games out of Dalton Schultz. So you're going to get some mileage out of Blake Jarwin, and then you're going to cut Mo Alley Cox and Chris Herndon.
Yep.
So you don't necessarily have to make a move for a tight end, but it would be nice to have like that cornerstone in an FFPC. And I love Hawkinson this year. I mean, who the hell else is Jared Goff going to throw to? Danny
Swift, and that's
Amendola,
it. Yeah.
something or someone named a Cephas. No, I mean I'm sure they'll draft a wide receiver or maybe bring someone in via free agency, but
But they're
as
also the
of
Lions, so they might not.
they could draft another tight end. I mean, Kyle Pitts could be there, and they could roll him in there and just kill everybody's value. So the other guy I want to talk about, actually three. Let's go with three of the rookies from last year. Let's talk Brandon Ayuk, Pittman, and Mims.
Sure.
Which one of those three would you be more likely to move, and why?
I almost feel like Ayuk is the move because a lot of his production came in an offense with injured running backs, injured tight end who is elite, and an injured Debo Samuel. So I feel like there might be some inflation to his value as far as his production goes. Um, as far as the dynasty perception of value, honestly, I'd probably still lean Ayuk. I think Pittman approached potentially a sell value with. I think the Colts are going to add somebody in free agency, and if they add a tight end in free agency and maybe draft a guy, like they have decent draft capital. They have a lot of pieces in place, so they're just like trying to fill a couple holes. I honestly tried to move like Pittman and Tua and to grab Dak to upgrade my quarterback, and that didn't work out so well, but felt like
I,
it was
I
at least fair.
I feel like that Ayuk is the one who's not going to get competition. They can't continue to pour many more
Yeah.
assets from a draft capital standpoint into the wide receiver group. They have to. So he feels like he can either stay the same or have potential to go up.
Okay.
I feel like the Colts will add. T.Y.
Yeah.
Hilton posted on social media that he will be more than likely hitting the market, as the Colts
Okay.
don't seem to want to at least give him a deal that he's looking for. And then Denzel Mims, with the Jets leading the league in cap space and having like 6 picks inside the top 100, and there being 20 to 25 good wide receivers in this class, Mims is going to, without fail, is going to get someone to come in there.
Sure.
The trick is with Pittman and Mims is trying to figure out who that's going to be.
Yeah.
If the Colts or the Jets sign Kenny Galladay, the biggest name free agent on the board, that's
Yeah.
bad for both of them. If they sign Juju Smith-Schuster, that's bad for both of them. Now they could also sign a guy like Corey Davis, and that's good for both of them. But there's a lot more gambling going on with there. So I would be, just casually talking to those guys. Let's talk about your picks, because it's hard to talk about all the moves that we potentially make without looking at your draft picks. Now you don't have your first. Obviously, you traded that off somewhere. You,
Unfortunately, because
you
that's a 102.
yeah, unfortunately, but you have the 111, the
Yeah.
208,
Yeah.
the 212, and the 302. I'm not going to get into some of these other scraggly 311, 402, etc. What are your thoughts at the 111? Who do you think will be there, and what would the move be?
Well, so I gotta do my DWZ rookie picks, and just thinking about them has been helpful for figuring out what my 111 might be, and that's part of the reason I want to move one of my like maybe not my top wide receivers, but a wide receiver is because it gives me a little bit more flexibility in that pick because I feel like it could be a Rondell Moore or Rashad Bateman, who I both think are sneaky, like wide receiver 3 to 5s that could be their 111. But that being said, like needing quarterback help, if Mac Jones gets drafted in the top 13 to 15, but as the fourth quarterback off the board in a league where Pitts is probably going to go, so it's probably going to be like 3 quarterbacks gone, Pitts is gone, that's 4, probably 3 running backs, that's 7, and then it's like Chase, Smith, Waddle.
It sucks because I want to be inside the top 10. I
I
love in a super flex format. I love everybody inside the top 10. You have the 5 quarterbacks, the 3 running backs, Pitts, and Jamar Chase. So you're probably going to be looking down the barrel. I don't know though. It depends on this league. If these guys quarterback, are they quarterback?
A year ago, I thought Tua was 102, and then all of a sudden he was 107. So.
This is true, but are these guys quarterback stashers? Are they going to try to lock up all the quarterbacks early? Or are they going to learn from the Justin Herbert incident last year?
I don't know. Last year was such a unique year. It was such a strong running back class with a lot of like good running back landing spots. Like Keyshawn Vaughn was a 3rd-round pick to one of our favorite landing spots last year, and he, as far as last year goes, he was a bust. Like if you drafted him late first or top half of the second, like you're disappointed. And I don't think he ever fell to the second half of the second in Superflex even.
What you need to make this pick very good at the 111, this is just for me personally. You know, you the listener may feel different. I believe you need a Devonta Smith or a Jalen Waddle. You need one of those 2 guys to land in a landing spot that's going to push value down to you.
Agreed.
So what you want is one of those guys to whet the appetite of a fellow owner and be like, "Oh yeah, I like him in Miami, or I like him in Philadelphia, or I like him here or there." Maybe Rashad Bateman even jumps in the conversation if he lands in a spot that sets the Dynasty Twitter sphere and podcasters on fire. Because you want that to happen so that one of those other 10 get pushed down to you. Like for this team, I would love for you to wind up with Mac Jones or Mac Jones. You're probably going to wind up having your choice of a quarterback.
Yeah.
If Fields or Lance wind up in a less than ideal position, I could see one of those guys falling. I don't think Zach Wilson will. I think he'll be in the top 5. I have the top of a Superflex going something like, for me, this is just for me personally. I have Trevor Lawrence, then Justin Fields. I believe in the tools. I heard a former NFL scout talking about this the other day. It's like, what's the coaches for? Everybody's talking about how he's raw and has some things to work on. He's like, you're paying a head coach $10 million a year. You're paying an OC $3 million a year. You're paying a quarterbacks coach $800,000 a year. That's their job, is to make him a better NFL player. So I still believe in the talent that is Justin Fields. 3 for me is Najee, Travis Etienne, Jamar Chase. I have Pitts at 6. Then I have Lance and then Wilson. And then Waddle and Devonta Smith. I know that even though I don't love it, I know that I'm going to have to force Javonte Williams up my draft board because he's a running back who's probably going to get 2nd-round draft capital. But that's a good thing, man, because you want one of these quarterbacks to fall to you. You want to be able to get a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields or a Mac Jones because you're not going to get Wilson or Lawrence, and I think that's what you want to do. But you have the 208. I will say this. There's a running back, if he lands in a good spot, maybe you could reach for him at the 111. That's Jamar Jefferson. You're probably starting to hear a little bit of buzz on him out of Oklahoma State. But then you have that 208, which I believe is the 20th overall pick.
Yep.
I have that as Tylan Wallace currently. Now I have Kenneth Gainwell as my
Okay.
23rd player overall in a tight end premium and a super flex.
Okay.
So I know some people are going to say he's a running back and that's probably too low, and I get that. But I would not be surprised if you weren't able to get a decent running back there, someone with some upside.
Hmm.
You never know, a Chuba Hubbard could fall there.
That's what I was thinking.
Jarrett
I'm a big fan
Patterson.
of the Rookie Fever podcast, and like Chuba Hubbard has sort of a weird trajectory. Like coming off of this weird college season, he had a really good. I guess maybe this past year was his junior year, and the year before was his sophomore year. He had like a great sophomore year, and I think this time a year ago, I was like, maybe I grab Chuba Hubbard with my late first or early second. Um, and that not only that, but I think where's he out of? Oklahoma or Oklahoma State?
State. He's at Seasoned
Yeah,
State. Black and
just
orange.
atrocious offensive line play this year that just like drove his production down. And so if somebody like Chuba could fall to that, 208, but maybe he still has day two draft capital, I feel really good about that. Maybe that's a hope and a prayer, but
Well, I think at that 212, that 302, that's where, based on the roster you have,
yeah,
again, this is all based off of that roster that you have. You're probably going to want to reach for some of the running backs that you like best out of guys like Jarrett Patterson, Kenneth Gainwell, Elijah Mitchell, Trey
yep,
Sermon, Javion Hawkins, Kylan Hill. I mean,
yep,
those guys are all kind of, I mean, there's obviously some a little bit better than others, but they're all kind of clustered in that range. And I'm gonna put that 212 and that 302
okay,
firmly in play at running back. I'm just going to take the best running back available unless someone wants to trade up.
okay,
And one last thing before I get you out of here,
yeah,
the other thing you may do at the 111 if you don't love that pick is, hey, I'll trade back. You know, if you're looking around and you don't love the board, you're hoping for a quarterback there because
yeah,
you really need a quarterback or a running back. You don't want to add a eighth wide receiver to an already great wide receiver room.
right,
That's where it would benefit you to move back that, or you're gonna have a tough decision to make. But I
yep,
think all in all, you've got a plan. You got lucky, you got unlucky, all at the same time. You made a nice move to get Justin Herbert.
yep.
We're kind of wait and see on Tua, and I want to make sure that's very clear. If you're listening, don't give up on Tua. Go ahead.
As DWZ Doctor PT, um, this time actually not even the first podcast I did with Memphis and the DWZ team. It was me, Memphis, and Jerry was talking about the top 10 most concerning dynasty players, and I believe we talked about Tua, or at least in some regard. Maybe he wasn't top 10, but we talked about a rookie, and we talked about how maybe the Dolphins' best move going into last season was to redshirt him because of the nature of this past preseason and his injury coming out of last season, like how severe, like how life changing, athletic changing, performance changing it was. And then all of a sudden, we have a Joe Burrow who takes over very early for the Bengals. We had a Justin Herbert take over very early for the Chargers. And these are teams who had nothing to play for. Like maybe early on, like, oh, the Chargers lost in overtime to the Chiefs. It feels like they're going to play for something, but ultimately, with Anthony Lynn, they were never playing for anything other than a pride. And so, in the learning or growing process, knowing you can make mistakes is a huge, 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 huge advantage. And then insert Tua, who gets inserted into this Dolphins team arbitrarily, not arbitrarily, but planned arbitrarily in like week 8 or 9, even though the Dolphins are like 5-2 or 5-3 with Ryan Fitzpatrick, because their plan was Tua will take over after the bye for
Well,
no other reason.
well, no, there was a reason. I think it went unreported. The reason why they forced Tua into action is they knew that the pick they had from the Houston Texans via the Laramie Tunsil trade, they knew that was going to be a high pick. And
Right. Okay.
I
Fair.
think their original plan was to redshirt, basically medically redshirt Tua all year. But I think at some point the GM and the head coach got together and like, look, we got to see what we have in this kid because we're
Yeah.
going to have a real high draft pick, and we need to see, do we need to pull an Arizona Cardinals and replace Josh Rosen with Kyler Murray, or is he going to come out and play real well and we can use that Houston pick for something else? I think if Houston had played better, let's say Houston was 8-8 and they were drafted
Yep.
like at 13th, I don't think we would have ever seen Tua. But I think Tua wanted to get on the field. I think they felt like they needed to see him in live game action because of that Houston pick, and that's how we wound up in the situation that we're in.
Sure. Fair. And so I guess what I'm getting to with this is that here we are. Like there's a lot of good real football analysts out there and a lot of real good football GM analysts out there, but don't let fantasy football Twitter turn you in like convince you of real football GM capabilities. I fully believe that Miami, look, they have the 3rd overall pick. There's a chance that they draft a quarterback or move to a in draft. But this is a guy who 18 months ago was the clear 101, and then a life-changing injury moved him down the board that everybody acknowledged was going to take more than a year to recover from, and he was thrust into competition less than a year removed from that injury. And this is not a guy who's been ever labeled as like lazy or whatever. So just stay grounded with your rankings, stay grounded with where you are in your dynasty construction and plan, because the sheep will just like they'll do whatever they have to make you think whatever they want you to think.
Just think very, very big picture,
Yes,
and
there you go.
don't be reactive. That's the number one move that I see so many dynasty GMs struggle from is they wait, and because I'm a former, not anymore, a big poker player. Chess, games with incomplete information. You don't know everything. It's a strategy based game.
Chess is complete, just for the record.
Yeah,
Read Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke if you think otherwise, but
I wouldn't read anything by Annie Duke, but we're getting off we're getting off the subject here. The big thing is that if you wait until more information's known, it's known by more people. So you have to be able to project some of this yourself, or you can come hang out with me. I wanted to do a follow-up with my buddy, with Dr. Kyle, as the 101 on the Dynasty Happy Hour Contractor. Just a quick hitter. I'll be back here next week with another guest. I believe we're going to have Michael on. We've already done the YouTube show. I've got some editing to do. As Dr. Kyle mentioned earlier, it's been a day, it's been a week, and I am a little behind. But on behalf of that man, his name is Dr. Kyle Bowser. You can follow him on Twitter at DWZ_Dr. PT. I am Memphis, and we'll see you back here next time where we will help you fix your Dynasty roster. Thanks for tuning in, guys.